Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of our podcast. And good. Hello there, Desi. How you doing?
Hello, Chris. I'm doing great.
Are those
Welcome, everybody. Remember to subscribe for the channel if you haven't yet.
are those flowers real in the background? Just out of interest.
A what?
Those flowers real in the background.
Yes, they are from Eleanor for my birthday.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, look, they have water and everything.
Yeah. So as Desi said, if you like the content, if you want to be notified when we post up new stuff, then subscribe below, tick the like button and also click on that bell thing, which means that YouTube will notify you when we post up another video, which of course you'll be desperate to get. So, uh, so today's topic, which is really affects us all, I think, because I think
Yeah,
we're
it
all
does.
guilty. I think we're all guilty of it. Why do people pretend to know when they don't? Now, I don't know about you, Jesse, but I have to confess, I've done this loads of times, and you know, but I don't really do it so much anymore because, and that's interesting in itself. Why have I stopped doing it then?
Uh-huh.
And, and that's an interesting question. So, like I was asked the other day by my grandson, is forex trading good? Now, now I could objectively say, well, it's neither good nor bad because people who win, who earn money doing it, are going to say it's good. People who lose money are going to say it's bad. But I didn't want to answer it in that way because it's not really helpful, is it? That's an obvious statement. It's not really doing much for the question. So I answered it, I don't know, which also wasn't great in terms of answering the question. But I didn't feel like I've never done forex trading. Right, I do crypto, as you know, and I do other things, but I don't. I've never done forex trading. It is basically trading currencies against each other, whether they're going to go up or down or whatever. So consequently, like with some of the announcements this week, the Fed announcements, Jerome Powell, the inflation rates and growth rates and stuff. There's loads happened this week. It's been a very volatile week.
Hmm.
You could, if you understood all that macroeconomic stuff, have predicted the dollar might have gone up or the dollar might have gone down or the pound had gone up or the euro gone up. Yeah, like you could have predicted these things. Maybe. Right? Because you never know where the market's gonna go. Really and truthfully, you never know. You can you can guess really, or you can look at the charts and see what the you can do some technical analysis on the charts, but the macroeconomic scene's been quite volatile this week. So just said no, I don't. I've never done it, which was true. I've never done it, and the fact that fiat currencies per se is going through the doldrums and will continue to, and as the de-dollarization of the world takes place, what's going to happen to the other currencies? Are they going to go up against the dollar? What's going to happen? And the answer is we just don't know, and we don't know when either, because anything could happen. Let's say, like Credit Suisse go bankrupt tomorrow. Like, I'm not saying they are. That's not a prediction. That's just that's just
Imagine if it
imagine.
happened.
Imagine that Credit Suisse went bust tomorrow. What would that do to the dollar?
I have no idea.
We'd have to follow all the. It wouldn't be good for any bank, let alone the second largest bank in the world. It would cause some massive ramifications, and I would suspect it would wipe out the stock market and everything else quickly. And I suspect that inflation would go through whatever. There would be it would be a massive problem. Right? I couldn't imagine unless I sat down for 4 hours probably and work out exactly what the impact of that would be, and I would still be wrong. but I would have a better understanding of it than someone who didn't spend the 4 hours with my background and trend analysis and stuff like that. So the question, let's get away from the subject a bit, but the point is, I wasn't pretending. I wasn't pretending that I knew something to curry favour with Tom, in like him thinking I'm a font of all knowledge, and that I'm some kind of godlike character in it. Oh, whatever I ask my granddad, he has the answers. I'm not frightened of not having the answers, which means I'm not scared of him feeling like maybe a little bit more negatively about me because I couldn't answer it, or maybe he's just pleased I gave him the truth.
Yeah.
And he didn't have to question whether I was lying or not. I think when you don't pretend, then you run the gauntlet of that person not thinking good of you, but at the same time, you also get the benefit of them knowing that you know your limitations, and you're not
Yeah.
frightened to say it. So, in amongst there are some of the things that all of us go through, I think. So you said you were triggered last night.
I was triggered last night, and that's why we started talking about this, because I saw somebody who was nodding and saying they knew it when obviously they didn't. And they led the whole group, their whole team, into a direction where it wasn't a good place to go, because the others decided to trust them, because they were so but they were louder than the rest in what they were saying, in projecting this idea, that this belief that yes, I know what I'm doing and I'm confident, and no, you're not. And I just shouted out, oh, stop pretending. Stop pretending, when you don't have a clue about anything. And it was interesting how my kids who were watching with me, they said, oh, whoa. What's this all about, Mum? I said, I'm very triggered now. Look, they are pretending that they know when they definitely, and it's so obvious to everybody that they don't. And then there was the next question, oh, so why are you triggered? And I said, oh, okay, yeah, thank you for reminding me. Thank you for bringing me back to myself. Now, why did I get triggered? So I started thinking, and that was a bit of a silence in which the kids were saying, yeah, we asked, and she says, and then silence, like she's gonna ignore us now. Mom's gonna ignore us. No, I'm thinking. I'm still thinking why I was triggered. And 5 minutes later, I said, I was just very triggered by the fact that this person they're just telling a lie. And if they're telling a lie and everybody else is believing them, I have a problem with that. I don't want to be lied, and I don't want to lie. But why I got triggered, I have no idea. Maybe because it was very, very fake. The fake part of it, I don't like fake. I don't like fake, which means probably on some level I'm also being fake.
Well, the whole program is fake. So, like, you just picked up one bit of it, but the whole program's fake, isn't it? It's a load of old drivel, the whole thing, right? Which is why I just question the validity of watching it. But anyhow, that's another issue.
It just happened that I just by accident. It
but I
was
mean,
just a coincidence.
The same thing can be true. Could be spoken of Question Time. Now, I used to watch Question Time quite religiously on a Thursday night at BBC Question Time. But in the end, it's a waste of time. The people asking the questions are, like, okay, they may be valid members of society are valid question askers, but the whole thing is that none of the people on there can make a difference to what's going on in the world, really. None of the people, because all of the people in politics are just puppets anyway. They're just delivering the mechanism, the system, right? So the whole show, the questions, which were okay, you could say they're interesting. Some of them were interesting, but the people giving the answers can't affect what they're saying. They can't change anything. They're not going to change anything.
It's a distraction.
It's a
The whole
distraction.
thing,
Exactly. It's a
distraction.
distraction. So I never watch it anymore because the whole thing about politics is a nonsense anyway. In my opinion, by the way, you can love your own politics if you want. It's great. I used to love it. I've washed my hands of it now because the answer's not in politics. They're all lying anyway. It's like they're doing this, they're doing this. They pretend they know what's going on and they haven't got a damn clue. And most of the people are acting on a very small subset of the information that's needed in order to make a sensible decision, and consequently, the decision in the end is rubbish. There's no answers. There's no answers.
There are no answers, but we're still having our favorite third person over here, or maybe it's a fourth with a fourth one. These are our egos playing around. So we need to have our egos here with a little, hey, this is ego, Chris's ego, in our two screens, because we keep referring back to them. So these two characters, well, not the two, because of, everybody's ego, every single person's ego is now responsible for doing that, whether they're going to be letting them to be genuine and honest and keeping to the truth, or letting them along a path of pretending that they know when they don't, because it's presumably in the eyes of the ego safer to do that. Now, why I don't like it is because when I get caught, because you inevitably, when you're telling fibs, inevitably the truth comes out in the end.
Well, they're risk
when you get caught, is like such a shameful thing. For me, it will be really shameful that I've been caught.
Well, there's an interesting thing here, right? Now, it depends on the personality, right? You're not a risk taker. Right, so if you're a risk taker and you've got a hunch that what you're saying is true, you've got a hunch, right? You're saying the probability of my guess is quite high. Let's say it's 65, 70%, right? So if I'm going to stand up and be vocal about my idea and I'm going to take it forward, right, there's a high probability, higher than 50%, that I'm going to be okay. If it goes horribly, and I'm going to get all the kudos for it, by the way, so I'm going to be the hero, yeah? If it goes wrong, 30%, 35%, if it goes wrong, I know I'm in the crapper, but I believe in myself to dig myself out of the hole, because I think I can probably blame it on somebody else. Right? Or I don't care anyway. Right? So these are the subconscious decisions that are going on. It's like, what's my chances of being wrong here? So you're weighing
So when you are deciding where you want to pretend that you know or not, depends on the chances of whether I'm going to be caught out or not.
Yeah, well, yeah, because if you've got a big ego,
this is funny.
if you've got a big ego and you want to be the savior, I think there's a more than half chance of you going with this idea of pretending. Right, your pretending is based on a collection of information and a way of thinking that you've built up a trust of. So basically, you're now projecting your idea because you can and you want to, because you want to be the savior. So there's a number of things in here. I want to be the big savior because I'm going to get kudos and I'm going to do well. and if you've got a 70% chance of being right, you're prepared to take the risk that you could be wrong, but you're more likely to be right. Yeah. Now, if you're wrong and there's no escaping it, it's depot crapo, right?
But usually rescuers attract victims. So whatever happens, they'll be all right because the victims are already weak anyway.
Yeah, so they can basically, if they are the charismatic leader, narcissist, possibly here, they can carry it off by slaying a few victims.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it's an interesting. I've been guilty of this. Like, I don't know the answer, but I have a good hunch, and I believe in myself, and I think I can carry it off, and taking a way forward. I mean, I did it. Like, here you go. Well, it didn't. There wasn't a right or there wasn't a yes or a no on this. It was basically I had a hunch. I was doing a negotiation with Digital Equipment Corporation going back a few years with software in the purchasing department, and there was a purchasing director. This was the second largest computer company in the world at the time. And we were a software house who bought a lot of DEC equipment, and they brought us in to see if we could help them with the project. I was a salesperson involved, so I took us in there, and I basically negotiated with them that we'd write this piece of software that was an auto payments allocation system. I was and my business partner in the end, but my governor, the company MD, basically he thought it was too risky, and he basically said, "No, we can't do this because if it goes wrong, it's going to cost the company." And as a managing director, I don't think we should do that. As a salesman looking at a commission check, I didn't like the idea of us not bidding for it because it was one of my prospects, a hot prospect off the table. So basically,
lots of dollar signs in.
Yeah. So in the end, I took us in there, and his view of the meeting was that he was there to say, "No, we're not going to do it. Sorry, let's walk away." I'd created a situation here where we were out of time on that idea. And we were doing it, whether we liked it or not. It was a kind of fait accompli. And so there was some untruths going on here, I have to admit. And I put him in a situation where he was unable to pull us out of it, and we were having to go ahead with do it. In my defense, the person who'd spec the system I trusted, he was a good accounts guy, right? I trusted that we would be able to write the software because I know I could write it. I knew I could write it. So if I could write it, so could the rest of the team write it, albeit they might take a bit longer, but they could write it. Yeah. And so consequently, I knew there was no downside. I knew we would succeed. I believed, although I didn't know for sure, I believed we could succeed at this. And in the end, we did succeed. And we got a lot of kudos from having delivered a solution which the company was using until they disappeared. I mean, it saved them a fortune, right? And basically, but my success was marred by the MD not being very happy with me.
But maybe that's in business, that's different. In business, when you know your strengths, you know your capabilities, you know that there is a little hurdle to overcome, and you do it. In this case, when I got triggered, it was obvious that that person has no clue what they're talking about. And the others are so gullible. Maybe that's what triggered me as well. Like, how can you actually believe this? it's a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, but don't forget,
being gullible. Maybe this is what triggered me actually. The gullibility. So I don't like to be considered or to place myself into a position where I judge myself as gullible. It's like I'm not intelligent enough to notice or to know better that this other person is taking me on for a ride. So that's where my work is, to fix that. Or to start to accept myself, even if I'm gullible. So what if I'm gullible and sometimes
But when this person did this, the other people didn't know, did they, that they were gullible? They just believed. This is why narcissism is so dangerous, because the people that stand up and deliver these messages are incredibly convincing, and they're very charismatic. And these other people don't have that, so they're really admiring the person's qualities as opposed to what they're saying. They don't feel like they can object or put up a counter argument because they don't know either, right? So, so they're just sitting quiet, going, "Oh," they might sit quietly and just say, "I don't think we're doing the right thing here, but I'm too timid to say anything."
No, to say anything.
And that's
it's like with kids, young kids. Why do they say that they know where they don't, or why do they tell lies? To protect themselves.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you're a lot. You know, you're a lot older and wiser than kids or people maybe in the room yesterday. At the end of the day, you're able to spot when you're being gullible and when people are bullshitting you. Right? You're able to ask a question which unveils that cloak of deceit before it gets too serious. Right? You're able to do that, and it's like. But when you're not in that position, you're coming up against someone else with your basically butting heads. Like, I don't agree, but whatever. It's like if you can't offer a better option, you got to do something. There's a lot. It's quite complicated. It's quite like if I said to you, "Do you know if Aldi's open later on?" and you said, "Oh yeah," you don't know, by the way, and you said, "Oh yeah, I think it's open till like 10 o'clock," and then I turn up at 9:30 and it's shut. Right. But it's not the end of the world, is it? It's like, but you said you said you knew because you just guessed that. Well, all the other shops are open till then, so I'm probably going to be okay on this one. And it looks like I know, right? That's a classic example, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't know, and it turns out it was shut. Yeah, well, you could have said, well, why don't you just go online and check it out? Like, that's a safe way. But
Yeah.
but why do we offer an answer if we're not sure?
It's because we're being trained to pass a test to give an answer. It's so like when somebody asks me a question, I never consider not answering. I cannot just sit there and ignore it.
Okay.
And if I want to save face to show off that I have a little bit of brain in my head,
Their belief in you, their belief in you is vindicated. Yeah, okay.
And I would want to be giving some answer to show that I know. Like, she's intelligent, she knows.
Okay, so that might be maintaining your perceived
Status.
intelligence level.
Yeah.
So if someone asked me a question like 20 years ago, I would have done my best to fudge through and give them something. But now, if someone says to me, "Oh, what would you do in this situation?" I would turn around and say, "Well, I've never been there." It's like you're asking me to imagine a situation that you've come across. I said, "I've never done it." It's like when my dad started to give me some advice, and it's going back and he gave me loads of good advice, by the way. This is no indication of like he was a great guy, and looking back over his life, I kind of understand much more of it than I did back then. But he was starting to give me some advice when I was about 32, and I said, "Look, Dad, I have to tell you something here. Like, I've done lots of things in my life already. Like, I've got married, had a kid, had a house, lost it, been around the world. I said, you haven't done these things. I said, so right now, my experience of life is different things. It contains a lot of things you haven't done. So therefore, I do appreciate and respect your guidance, but also respect that there's a lot of other stuff that you've not done that I've now done. So I have to make a different choice sometimes. And it's nothing derogatory about your advice. It's just, I've done things that change the way I see the world, like, and to put it tactfully, I wasn't saying that his advice was irrelevant, because if I wanted to do some wiring, I'd get my dad round to help me out. Like, he knew about those things, and he would be able to make sure I didn't electrocute myself. Not that I would, because I'd turn the power off, because I'm not that dim. But but yeah, I mean, we offer advice and guidance, and we pretend to know things. Now, if I don't know, I don't know, and that's the end of it. I'm not upset by the fact I don't know. I'm not trying to project my wisdom on other people when it doesn't exist. So I think it's a really interesting question, and I think it asks us to ask ourselves, why do we pretend to know, and what happens if we get found out the ramifications of the consequences if it goes horribly wrong, especially in family situations, can be quite dire.
John, I think to dig and uncover, everybody can find their own answers, because there's no one solution for this.
No, I'm sure there's, I mean, like, we haven't given this like absolute 100% exposure on every aspect of it, and I'm sure there are people who'll be watching this or be listen to this will say, oh, well, I could, there's this and this and this. Okay, well, if you have that, stick it in the notes, right? Stick it in the notes so that we can look at it and we can basically comment on it, because we won't have had a comprehensive coverage of the whole subject here, just our bits of experience and maybe our thoughts. But yeah, so do that. Click subscribe, like it, and tick the bell and follow it, because that's probably, we've done this topic as far as our experience is concerned, but I'm sure there's more. So anything to add?
And if any of you guys watching this have another idea of a topic that we can discuss, that will be a very good help as well. So, because we have all these different topics, but still we would want to do one that is more, well, not one. We would like to do topics that people want to hear. So do that as well. And thank you for watching.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.